My psycho cousin is threatening to hurt my family if we don't give him more money. So I'm setting him up and risking my life to put him in prison. I'm 29. I'm married with a daughter who just turned 5. We live a quiet life in a small town outside of Columbus, Ohio. I work in IT, my wife is a preschool teacher, and we've never really had drama until he came back into our lives. My cousin Jesse is 31. We used to be close when we were kids. I mean, real close. He was like my big brother. We'd build forts, play video games until sunrise, sneak candy into movie theaters. He lived with his mom, my dad's sister, in a rougher part of town and would stay with us some weekends. My mom always said she felt sorry for him because his dad took off when he was 3 and his mom worked double shifts. But even back then, there were signs. Jesse had this wildness in his eyes. When we were 10, he choked our neighbor's cat to see what it felt like. At 13, he stole his mom's car and crashed it into a tree. My parents started pulling back, slowly, making excuses when Jesse wanted to come over. By the time we were in high school, Jesse was already in juvie for shoplifting and getting into fights. I still kept in touch, writing letters, even visited once when he was locked up. I told myself he was misunderstood, that he just needed someone who didn't give up on him. God, I wish I'd let go back then. Fast forward a decade. I hadn't heard from Jesse in years. Then, last November, out of nowhere, he showed up at my front door. He looked different, leaner, meaner. Tattoos snaked down both arms, and he had this twitch, like he was constantly grinding his jaw. Said he was out and trying to start fresh. Asked if I had any work, even offered to help with stuff around the house. My wife wasn't comfortable, but I told her he was family. I'd help him get back on his feet. Biggest mistake of my life. We let him crash in our garage for a few weeks. That turned into 2 months. He'd disappear for days, then show up stinking like smoke and booze. I caught him going through our pantry one night, stuffing granola bars into his coat. Another time he came back with a black eye and a cracked phone, muttering something about bad luck at the bar. Still, I didn't kick him out. I told myself he just needed a chance. Then, everything changed the night I said no. He asked me for $5,000. Said it was for a business investment, and that I'd definitely get it back. I told him I couldn't, that I had bills, a kid, a mortgage. That was when I saw something in his eyes I'll never forget. Cold, calculated, cruel. You're gonna wish you said yes, he told me, dead serious. You got a lot to lose, cousin. I laughed it off at first. Thought he was just being dramatic. Then, 2 days later, someone smashed my car window. Then our dog went missing. We found her 2 blocks away, tied to a pole, whimpering. Then my wife got a text from a number she didn't recognize. Tell your husband to pay up. Accidents happen. I confronted Jesse. He just stared at me and smiled. I told you, $5,000. Or else. That was 2 weeks ago. Since then, he's been sending texts from burner numbers, pictures of our house, our daughter's daycare, threats that get darker and more specific. My wife is terrified. She sleeps with a baseball bat by the bed. My daughter doesn't understand why we don't let her play outside anymore. We went to the police, of course, but they said unless there's physical evidence or he directly harms someone, their hands are tied. They told us to get a protection order. Jesse just laughed when I mentioned it. You think paper's gonna stop a bullet? He said. That was the night I decided. I can't let him keep doing this. Not to my family. Not to me. I'm going to set him up. It's dangerous. I know it. He's unstable, maybe armed, maybe worse. But I can't live like this anymore. We can't live like this. And I won't let my daughter grow up afraid of shadows because I was too scared to do what needed to be done. I'm still figuring out the exact details. I've got a plan. But I'm scared. I'm scared I won't be fast enough. I'm scared of what Jesse will do if he finds out. And I'm scared of what it says about me that I'm willing to lie, deceive, and put myself in danger to take him down. But if it means keeping my family safe, I'll walk through hell. I wish I could tell you things calmed down after that. That Jesse cooled off or disappeared or that the cops suddenly cared. But that's not how this went. Things escalated. Fast. 2 days after his "you think paper's gonna stop a bullet" line, I found a dead bird in our mailbox. Its neck had been snapped clean. My daughter saw it first. She screamed and started crying. I tried to play it off like maybe a cat got to it, but my wife knew. We both knew. That wasn't random. The same night, I got a text from another burner number. Next time it won't be a bird. I'd already changed our locks, installed cameras, floodlights, put bars on the garage windows. My wife begged me to buy a gun, but I didn't want to escalate things more than they already were. At that point, I still had this sick hope that Jesse would just vanish again. That maybe if we stayed quiet and didn't push back, he'd get bored. That's not what happened. Instead, the demands got more insane. First it was $5,000. Then it was 10. Interest, he said. Said we owed him for all the times he got screwed over by our family. According to Jesse, we were the golden ones. My parents owned their home, mine had a backyard, his didn't. His mom struggled with rent while mine stayed home and baked cookies. He said I owed him for the privileged life I got. He called me soft. Said I was hiding behind a desk job while real men made money. He started texting my wife directly. Photos of her at work. My daughter in the schoolyard. Her car parked outside Target. The messages were always vague but loaded with threat. Cute dress. Would be a shame if something happened to it. That red car's got shitty brakes. You should get that checked. We moved in with my parents for a few days. Told them we had a pest problem. I didn't want to scare them, but I couldn't risk Jesse following us and figuring out our routines. We pulled our daughter from daycare and kept her home. My wife stopped going out unless I was with her. Every creak in the house made us jump. We were prisoners in our own lives. Jesse, meanwhile, started calling me. At first it was every couple days. Then daily. Then multiple times a day. He'd switch up the numbers every time so I couldn't block him. He never yelled. That was the part that freaked me out most. He was always calm. Calculated. Like he was reading from a script. "TikTok, man. You don't pay soon, I'm gonna have to send a message. You won't like it. You ever seen a fire start from inside a garage? You know how fast that spreads." I recorded everything. Every call. Every text. Every email. I went back to the police again with a folder thick with evidence. You know what they told me? He hasn't done anything yet. These are threats, but without a direct act of violence or intent we can prove, we're limited in what we can pursue. I asked them point blank, so I just wait until he hurts someone? The officer didn't even look me in the eyes. Just said, get the restraining order. Be vigilant. Let us know if he shows up in person. They gave me a stack of paperwork and a pamphlet on protecting your family from violent relatives. It might as well have been a goddamn coloring book. That night, I broke down in the bathroom. First time I've cried in years. I sat on the cold tile floor, sobbing into a towel while my daughter sang in the other room, completely unaware her dad was falling apart piece by piece. I felt powerless. Like I'd failed them. My wife tried to be strong, but I saw it in her eyes, she was cracking too. That's when something changed in me. The fear didn't go away, but it transformed. Hardened. It became this cold, pulsing resolve. I realized I can't wait for him to make the first move. I have to beat him to it. That night, I opened my laptop, searched how to record a confession, and started mapping out how to trap Jesse. I wouldn't just protect my family, I'd bury him legally. But the plan I was hatching, it meant letting him get close again. It meant playing along with his game. It meant putting myself in his crosshairs fully, deliberately. And once I started it, there'd be no going back. You ever look at yourself in the mirror and not recognize the person staring back? That was me last week. I just finished tucking my daughter into bed. She asked why I always checked the windows before saying goodnight. Is it because of the monster? She said. I froze. I asked her what she meant. She told me she heard Mommy say we had a bad man watching us, so she figured he must be a monster like in the books. But then she smiled and said, "It's okay, Daddy. You'll scare him away." That broke me. Because I didn't feel like someone who could scare anyone away. I felt like a coward. A man who let evil into his life and didn't shut the door fast enough. A man who was letting fear dictate every move. I spent the rest of that night pacing the living room. Watching shadows crawl across the walls. Watching the cameras for signs of Jesse. No sign. Just that empty, gnawing dread chewing on my gut. That's when I started planning. I had this crazy, half-formed idea in my head: if I could get Jesse to incriminate himself, to make a direct threat on camera, or try to extort me again in a way that was undeniable on tape, maybe the police would finally do something. But the plan came with a price. It meant talking to him again. Inviting contact. Letting him think I was folding. The next morning, I messaged one of the old burner numbers. "Let's talk. I might have something for you." 10 minutes later, I got a reply. "That's more like it. Meet me tomorrow. You know the old quarry off 87? I hadn't been to that place since high school. It's where the burnout kids used to smoke weed and shoot BB guns at beer cans. The whole area's half abandoned now, just woods and rusting fences. No cameras. No witnesses. I almost said no. Almost backed out. But I knew I needed to do this. I drove out there at noon the next day. Before I left, I tucked my phone into the lining of my coat, screen recording, camera lens poking out just enough to capture what I needed. I also had a mini body cam I'd ordered off Amazon 2 nights before, clipped under the zipper of my hoodie. I rehearsed what I'd say. How to bait him. How to keep my face calm. When I got there, Jesse was already waiting. Leaning against a tree, cigarette in one hand, duffel bag at his feet. Thought you chicken out, he said, grinning that same hollow grin I used to think was just sarcasm. But now I know it's something darker. There's nothing behind Jesse's eyes. Just empty glass. I told him I wanted to make things right. That I had a friend who could help me pull money together, but I needed time. He laughed. Said, "You're lucky I haven't already lit a match under your whole damn life." I asked him why. Why he was doing this. Why he was targeting me. His family. He stepped forward and his smile vanished. Because you got everything I didn't. And I'm tired of pretending that shit doesn't matter. You got a wife who loves you. A daughter. A house. A car that doesn't stall out on the highway. And here I am crawling through the mud just to eat. Then he said the line I needed, the one I recorded. But I'll take your piece if I can't have mine. I'll burn your world down for sport if you don't pay up. And trust me, it'll start with your little girl. My skin went ice cold. I nodded like I was scared. Because I was. He said to bring the money by the end of the week. Then he turned and left, duffel bag slung over his shoulder like he was walking away from a casual conversation. I drove straight to the station. I showed the detective the footage. The audio. The threats. This time, they listened. They told me it was enough to open an investigation, maybe even prep a sting. But I'd have to keep playing along. Keep the communication going. They needed more. Something concrete they could charge him with. I agreed. But when I got home, I couldn't sleep. I kept replaying the conversation in my head. Not just the threat, but the part where Jesse looked at me with real, blistering hatred. Where he made me feel like the enemy. Like somehow I deserved this. And that's where the guilt comes in. The confusion. The ache in my chest. He's my blood. I can still hear us laughing in my dad's basement, sitting cross-legged playing Super Smash Brothers, splitting candy and secrets. How did that boy become this man? How did I become someone willing to destroy his own cousin? But I have no choice now. Not anymore. This plan's already in motion. And either Jesse goes down. Or my family does. They say when you're in real danger, time slows down. That's bullshit. It doesn't slow down, it tightens. Like a noose around your neck. Every second feels heavy, fast, loaded. That's how I felt the morning of the sting. The police called it a controlled drop. They'd mic me up, wire the cash, not real, of course, and surveil from a distance. Jesse had asked me to bring the money to an abandoned gas station 20 miles out of town, totally off the grid. They couldn't arrest him just for meeting me there. They needed him to take the money and make a threat in person. Everything hinged on me walking in, playing it cool, and getting him to say just enough, again on tape. I kept thinking, what if he checks me for a wire? What if he shows up high, paranoid, armed? What if the police are too far? What if this is the last time I ever see my family? My wife held my face in her hands that morning and said, "Come back to us. No matter what. Just come back." I kissed my daughter's head before I left. She didn't know anything, but she gave me her little pink plastic bracelet, the kind with beads and glitter. "For good luck," she said. I wore it under my sleeve. The wire was taped to my chest. The mic, the wires, the transmitter, it all made my skin crawl. Like I was wearing someone else's fear. The detective set me down in the back of a van, walking me through everything. Don't confront him. Don't escalate. Get him to take the bag. Get him to make the threat. We'll handle the rest. I nodded like I understood. But deep down, I knew I was lying. I wasn't sure I'd make it back. I drove to the drop site alone. A cracked shell station with vines strangling the pumps and old graffiti peeling off the walls. The sun was brutal. It felt like the world was watching. Every sound, every gust of wind felt like it might explode. I parked. Killed the engine. Opened the trunk. Grabbed the duffel full of fake cash. Then I saw him. Jesse stepped out from behind the station. Hoodie. Sunglasses. Hands in his pockets. The way he walked, like he owned fear, chilled me. "About time," he muttered. "You bring my money?" I held up the duffel. "It's all there. Open it." I did. Bundles of paper, wrapped in bands. Looked real enough. He stared at me a long time. "You look like shit," he said, smirking. "You been sleeping at all?" "Not really." He stepped closer. I kept one hand on the bag, the other clenched in my jacket pocket wrapped around my car key, tight enough to draw blood. Then he said it. "You know, I almost didn't come. Figured I'd just torch your house instead. Quicker. Cleaner. But hey, I like options." That was it. That was the line. Before I could say anything back, I heard shouting. Fast footsteps. Tires screeching. Then, police? Hands in the air. "Do not move." Jesse spun. Too fast. A flash of metal. A scream. Mine? Theirs? I don't even know. Someone tackled him. Guns drawn. He hit the pavement hard, the duffel spilling open like a popped balloon. The paper bundles scattered across the concrete. He kept shouting. Something about being set up, about traitors. They cuffed him. Patted him down. Found a switchblade in his hoodie pocket. Later, they said he had a loaded revolver in his waistband. Loaded. He would have used it. I know that in my bones. The officer who wired me up rushed over and ripped the mic from my chest. "You okay?" he asked. I nodded. Couldn't speak. Couldn't breathe. Everything after that was a blur. I gave a statement. Then another. Signed paperwork. Identified evidence. I was in the station for hours, still shaking, still wearing that dumb pink bracelet like it was armor. They kept Jesse overnight. Charged him with attempted extortion, criminal threats, illegal possession of a firearm, resisting arrest, and possession of a weapon by a felon. Turns out he had a record even he didn't tell me about. Stuff from other states. It's all going to court. They said I might have to testify. I said I would. 100 times over if it means putting him away. When I got home that night, I collapsed in the hallway. My wife caught me before I hit the floor. I cried like a kid. I hadn't even realized how badly I needed to cry. I was still wearing the bracelet. That pink plastic miracle. You'd think the worst part would be over once Jesse was cuffed and stuffed into the back of a police cruiser. It wasn't. That was just the end of his part in the story. The fallout was ours to live with. The first 2 days after the sting, I kept jumping at every sound. I'd wake up at 3 a.m. convinced I heard glass breaking or a footstep outside the window. I slept with a baseball bat by the door and my phone on my chest. My wife and I started triple-checking the doors every night, sometimes getting up twice just to make sure. We were safe, but we didn't feel safe. Then came the family. My aunt, Jesse's mom, called my dad in tears. Blaming us. Said I entrapped her baby. He was sick, she sobbed. You could have helped him. But instead, you handed him over like trash. I wasn't even surprised. She's been in denial since Jesse was 12. Back then, when he got caught stealing from the church food pantry, she told everyone it was a misunderstanding. When he set a neighbor's shed on fire at 15, she blamed the neighbors for leaving flammable stuff lying around. Every time he spiraled, she twisted the world around him so he didn't have to face it. Now, she's doing it again. Some of my cousins texted too. One said I should be ashamed for ratting on family. Another wrote, "You better watch your back. Not all of us forget blood." I showed the cops. They shrugged. Not a direct threat, they said. But keep the texts. Document everything. I started keeping a folder. Printouts. Screenshots. Notes. Every phone call, every strange car parked too long near our street. I live like a paranoid man now because part of me still believes Jesse didn't act alone. He's got friends. People who owe him favors. People who scare me even more because I don't know their names, their faces, their limits. But the hardest part hasn't been the fear. It's been the guilt. I keep replaying it in my head the moment he saw the cops coming, that second where his face changed. It wasn't rage or fear. It was hurt. Like I betrayed him. And maybe I did. I keep wondering, what if I'd handled it differently? What if, back when he first showed up at our door, I'd put him in rehab? Found him a place to live? Bought him a damn bus ticket to another town? What if I just shut the door that day and never let him in? It's a rabbit hole of maybes and what-ifs, and every time I go down it, I come out more confused, more hollow. My therapist, I finally started seeing one, says that's survivor's guilt. Says trauma makes us take responsibility for things we couldn't control. But deep down, I still feel responsible. Jesse was my cousin. My blood. I gave him a place to sleep. I fed him. I trusted him. And he turned around and threatened to burn my daughter alive. That's the part one remind myself of when the guilt tries to drown me. That's the part one force myself to say out loud. He would have hurt us. He wanted to. And still, I miss who he was. Or maybe who I thought he was. I miss the kid who jumped off the garage roof with me when we were 9, both of us convinced a bedsheet would work like a parachute. I miss the boy who cried with me the night Grandpa died. But that boy's gone. That boy grew into someone else, someone dangerous, broken, maybe even evil. And I couldn't save him. I could only stop him. My daughter sleeps peacefully again now. My wife smiles a little easier. The lights in our house feel warm again, not like traps waiting to be sprung. And I know, I did the right thing. But I also know the story's not over. There's still the trial. Still the testimony. Still the moment I have to sit in court, point at Jesse in handcuffs, and say out loud to a room full of strangers, "That's him. That's my cousin. And he tried to destroy us. God help me. I'll do it. But I won't pretend it won't hurt."